Shedeur Sanders didn't say a word, and somehow that made the loudest noise in the NFL this week. When the third-string Browns QB answered post-game questions by literally miming his responses, it was either a genius marketing move or a professional implosion in real time. Depends who you ask. Rex Ryan called it disgrace. Pat McAfee called it elite-level trolling. NFL veteran Ken Dorsey simply called it risky. What no one could deny is that Sanders' silent protest flipped a switch across.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Suddenly, a quarterback buried on the depth chart became the most talked about player of the week, and not for throwing a pass. The reason? His viral mime act came just days after Dillon Gabriel was promoted to the Browns starting QB role. And while Gabriel kept things classic, calm, polite, team-focused, Sanders went full content creator mode. No words, just facial expressions and dramatic hand gestures like he was auditioning for Cirque du Soleil. The clip was shared, memed, and debated across every NFL circle faster than you could say locker room chemistry. But here's the real friction. The NFL doesn't know what to do with guys like Shedeur. His dad, Deion Sanders, was flashy too, but Deion always backed up on the field. Shedeur? Right now he's third string. And when you're third string, the rules are different. McAfee loves the content game. He knows the grind. Rex Ryan? He wants you to act like it's 1985 and you just handed the ball off 20 times for 120 yards. Different worlds colliding. Ken Dorsey's take is the most practical. It's all about whether the team is behind you. If Shedeur's antics don't splinter the locker room, maybe it's just noise. But if they do, that's how you lose not just reps, but respect. Gabriel, by contrast, is everything coaches want. Quiet, focused, consistent. He's a walking definition of wait your turn. And the NFL rewards that. Sanders, meanwhile, is attempting to rewrite the script. He's leveraging viral fame, family legacy, and a media machine to make up for a lack of reps on the field. He's betting on the long game. Build a brand now. Let the opportunities come later. But in the NFL, branding only works if you also deliver. And if you're not starting, antics start to feel like attitude. This mime moment might have been smart in theory, but on the wrong sideline, it could cost him everything. You would think the most controversial quarterback story of the week would involve a blown call or a disastrous interception. But no, what's dominating the headlines is a mime act, a literal mime act, performed live and in silence by Cleveland Browns third-string quarterback Shedeur Sanders. And in true NFL fashion, things exploded from there. It started during a post-practice press conference when Shedeur was asked about Dillon Gabriel being named the starting quarterback. A standard question, one that most backups would answer with a rehearsed line about staying ready and supporting the team. Not Shedeur. He stood there, said nothing, and started miming. Yes, miming. He pantomimed confusion, zipped his lips, mimed walking away, and stood in silence. Cameras rolled. Reporters froze. Within hours, the clip was viral. People weren't just confused. They were divided. Some called it hilarious, clever, and a bold middle finger to the media machine. Others said it was embarrassing, immature, and a career-killing move for someone barely clinging to a roster spot. Either way, the NFL world couldn't look away. Pat McAfee, he loved it. He couldn't stop grinning. Called it elite trolling and performance genius. On his show, he praised Shedeur for doing something most players wouldn't dare, turning a dull presser into headline content. McAfee's take was clear. This wasn't just a joke. It was a strategic flex. One that only someone like Shedeur, with his media upbringing and famous last name, could pull off with as much confidence, because this is Deion Sanders' son, the youngest in a football empire built on charisma, camera angles, and cultural moments. Shedeur has grown up under stadium lights and YouTube thumbnails. He's not new to the game. He is the game, just playing by updated rules. But not everyone sees it that way. Enter Rex Ryan. And let's just say, he did not find the mime routine funny. Rex Ryan went off loudly, calling it a clown show, accusing Shedeur of disrespecting the team, and warning NFL front offices to be wary of a quarterback who chooses virality over leadership. Rex didn't just disagree. He saw it as a threat to team chemistry, to the quarterback role, and to the seriousness of professional football. And let's be honest, Rex speaks for a big slice of the league that still worships at the altar of old-school discipline. The contrast couldn't be sharper. On one side, McAfee's out here calling Shedeur a social genius. On the other, Rex is treating him like a cautionary tale in real time. And caught between those extremes, the NFL's uncomfortable shift into the influencer era. Because this story isn't just about Shedeur Sanders. It's about the tension that's been building across pro sports for years. The battle between content creators and career athletes. Between personal brands and playbooks. And this was my moment. It just shoved that conversation straight into the mainstream. Now you've got Ken Dorsey, a respected NFL veteran, stepping in with a measured, adult-in-the-room take. Dorsey says it's all about locker room dynamics, that if the team's good with it, the media can say what it wants. Because at the end of the day, harmony inside the building is what matters most. That's the key, team buy-in. If the locker room finds Shedeur's My Moment entertaining, then it's harmless. But if it rubs teammates the wrong way, then it becomes a real problem. Because quarterbacks don't just lead drives, they set the tone. And if that tone is too self-serving, too content-obsessed, trust breaks down fast. The debate isn't whether Shedeur's act was funny. It's whether it was smart. Some think it's a genius move, grabbing attention in a way that boosts his personal brand, creates relevance, and might open doors beyond the depth chart. Others see it as reckless, the kind of thing that screams, I care more about likes than wins. And right now, no one knows which side is right, because this isn't a one-off for Shedeur. It's part of a larger pattern. Every move he makes is carefully watched, and often heavily branded. He's not just a football player. He's a public figure, a social media entity, and the son of one of the most recognizable personalities in sports history. Everything he does carries weight. Everything he doesn't do, like speak at a press conference, carries even more. The fact that he's a third-string quarterback just heightens the stakes. He's not throwing game-winning passes or running 2-minute drills. He's trying to stay visible in a system where invisible players don't survive. And in 2025, going viral can be more valuable than a preseason highlight reel. But that strategy walks a fine line. The NFL is changing, but not fast enough to fully embrace Shedeur's method. Decision makers are split. Some front offices see viral moments as marketing gold. Others view them as red flags, signs of distraction, ego, or lack of focus. That's why Shedeur's My Moment hit such a nerve, because it's right at the edge of what the league is willing to tolerate. He's not breaking rules. He's bending the culture. And then there's Dylan Gabriel, the man who did get the starting job. Quiet, humble, no nonsense. Gabriel showed up, gave an earnest interview about preparation and staying ready, and kept things focused on the team. Classic NFL values: discipline, respect, effort. He represents the safe choice. The guy who won't make headlines unless he's throwing touchdowns. Gabriel's approach is everything the league traditionally rewards. And in many ways, he's probably exactly what coaches want in a starter. But he's not the one trending. He's not the one people are debating on sports talk shows. And that, ironically, proves Shedeur's entire point. In today's NFL, attention is leverage. And Shedeur, like it or not, just created more of it than half the starters in the league. So now we wait. Will teams embrace this new model of quarterbacking? One part athlete, one part entertainer? Or will they tighten the grip, punishing players who color outside the lines? Because Shedeur Sanders just became a test case. A real-time experiment in brand versus tradition. And the results are far from clear. He might become a face of a new generation. One that understands football is as much about the story as it is about the stats. Or he could flame out, remembered not for his throws, but for a viral press conference that made the wrong people nervous. Either way, he's already made his mark. The game isn't just played on the field anymore. It's played in front of cameras, inside comment sections, and across every platform with a share button. And Shedeur knows it. He's not waiting for his number to be called. He's calling his own plays in the media game. It's risky. It's polarizing. But it's working. So now the NFL has a choice: adapt or try to shut it down. The mime may not have spoken, but the message was loud and clear. Drop your take in the comments. Is Shedeur Sanders ahead of his time, or just playing with fire? Should quarterbacks be allowed to lean into content creation, or is it hurting the locker room vibe? And if you're here for more NFL chaos, media meltdowns, and content strategy disguised as controversy, hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started. This moment, this bizarre, hilarious, and deeply divisive mime routine, is now a career-defining pivot point for Shedeur Sanders. It's not just a clip. It's not just a meme. It's a full-blown NFL Rorschach test, revealing exactly how fractured the football world has become when it comes to what's acceptable, what's marketable, and what's smart. Because for every exec or analyst calling this a branding win, there's another whispering behind closed doors. This kid might be more trouble than he's worth. And that's the danger of being loud. Even when you don't say a single word. Shedeur knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what that mime act would do in the age of content cycles and outrage farming. He's not naive. You don't grow up in the Deion Sanders media machine and not understand how narratives get built. He didn't black out. He performed. With intention. With control. With the kind of timing that says, watch this go viral before I even hit the locker room. And it did. Instantly. But now the narrative has spun so far beyond the original moment that no one's even talking about Dylan Gabriel's promotion anymore. This was supposed to be his news cycle. The moment he stepped into the spotlight, got a shot, prove his professionalism. But instead, the national conversation is all about the guy who didn't talk. That's the kind of power the NFL doesn't know how to regulate, because this league is built on hierarchy, order, chain of command. Starters start, backup support, practice squad stays invisible. And Shedeur just jumped the entire ladder, not with his arm, but with a viral moment. And let's be honest, some people hate that more than they'll admit. They want him punished for it. Quietly, not by fines or public discipline, but in the form of opportunities denied. They want GMs to pass him over, coaches to avoid him, teammates to roll their eyes. Because if this kind of stunt works, it sets a precedent that terrifies traditionalists. But Shedeur's not playing for their approval. He's playing the long game. A very calculated, very modern game. And in that game, visibility is value. Clout can be capital. Fame can open doors that a depth chart won't. The key question now is, how does the Browns organization respond? Do they rally around him, chalk it up as harmless personality, and let it ride? Or do they quietly start pulling away, tightening his media access, dialing down his reps, putting pressure on him to fall in line? Because that's the scary part of being the story. You're now under the microscope. Every move Shedeur makes from here on will be scrutinized through the lens of that moment. If he misses a throw in practice, it'll be too distracted by social media. If the offense struggles, bad vibes in the QB room. If he breathes wrong near a camera, it becomes news. That's the trade-off when you go viral in the NFL. You don't just gain attention. You inherit a storyline. And here's the kicker. Shedeur might be fine with that. He might actually prefer it. Because whether or not he becomes an NFL starter, whether or not he ever leads a 2-minute drill in front of 70,000 fans, he's already positioned himself as more than just a player. He's a persona, a brand, a talking point. And that matters more now than ever. Look at how teams are operating these days. They care about engagement, about marketability, about reach. They're selling jerseys and digital clips as much as they're selling wins. Players are assets on and off the field. And if a third stringer can generate millions of views on a press conference clip, that's not nothing. That's leverage. Even if you hate the tactic. Even if you think it's cringe or inappropriate or disrespectful. It worked. But the fact that it worked is exactly why people like Rex Ryan are furious. Because it exposes just how fragile the NFL's image really is. For decades, quarterbacks have been packaged as stoic leaders. Boring, polished, PR-friendly. But Shedeur's mime act cracked that mold. And Rex didn't know how to handle it. So he did what NFL lifers always do. He yelled, loudly, condescendingly, hoping that volume would replace nuance. But Pat McAfee, he saw the moment for what it was, a cultural shift. McAfee's whole brand is built on that same line between sports and entertainment. He knows this wasn't just trolling. It was performance and promotion. And more importantly, it worked, which is why he didn't just defend Shedeur. He celebrated him. That celebration, by the way, speaks volumes, because McAfee's not just a former player anymore. He's a major media gatekeeper. One viral endorsement from him carries more influence among fans and young players than any coach's post-game speech. So when McAfee lifts Shedeur up while Rex tries to tear him down, you're not just seeing a media debate. You're seeing a power struggle. Old guard versus new school. Coach culture versus creator economy. And Shedeur's right at the center of it. Now, let's talk about Ken Dorsey for a second, because his take might actually be the most important one. He didn't rush to judgment. He didn't assign moral value to the mime routine. He focused on what matters. Does it affect the locker room? Because that's the one place where antics, jokes, and viral clips stop being theoretical. That's where you find out if a player is respected or resented. If the rest of the team views the mime moment as harmless content, or as ego getting in the way of chemistry. If Dorsey's right, and the locker room isn't phased, then this entire scandal is just noise. But if there's even a hint of friction, even a small crack in trust or focus, then Shedeur's gamble becomes costly. Because while fans can enjoy the circus, teams have to live in the tent. And that's what makes this story so tense. It's not just about one quarterback doing something weird at a presser. It's about how far players can go in building their personal brands before the system starts pushing back. It's about whether personality enhances your career or undermines it, whether content is connection or distraction. This isn't the last we've heard from Shedeur, not by a long shot. If anything, this moment has made it more relevant than ever. Whether it leads to a breakout, a backlash, or both remains to be seen. But what's undeniable is that he's forcing the NFL to confront something it's never been good at. Change. Change in how players communicate. Change in how quarterbacks carry themselves. Change in how relevance is earned. In a league that claims to be about the shield, Shedeur just reminded everyone that the spotlight doesn't always follow the starting lineup. Sometimes it finds the backup. Sometimes it finds a guy who says nothing at all. So now we wait. Will Shedeur continue down this path, leaning into the media attention, using every moment to build his following and keep his name in headlines? Or will the backlash become too loud? Will coaches start dialing him back, worried that the brand is outpacing the ball? Either way, the precedent is set. And make no mistake, other players are watching. Young athletes who grew up on social media. Players who understand that performance is only part of the package. If Shedeur pulls this off, if he goes viral, keeps the locker room, and somehow earns a shot, you're going to see more like him. More media-savvy backups. More viral moments that disrupt press conferences. More tension between the past and the present. And maybe that's a real story here. Not Shedeur's silence, but what that silence unleashed. It was a spark. In a league full of rigid expectations and tired cliches, it was one player saying, "I don't owe you the narrative you want." He didn't speak, but he said everything. And now the NFL has to answer back. Here's the part nobody wants to admit. Shedeur Sanders didn't lose anything by going viral. If anything, he just unlocked a new lane for himself, a lane the NFL pretends doesn't exist but clearly thrives in. You don't need to be QB1 to win in today's game. You don't even need playing time. What you need is relevance. And relevance in 2025 is no longer tied to stats. It's tied to presence. Are people talking about you? Are you getting engagement? Are you generating conversation? Even if half of his outrage? That's exactly what Shedeur did. He made himself unavoidable. And not by accident. The mime wasn't spontaneous. It was sculpted. And whether you love or hate the performance, you're still watching it. You're still sharing it. Which means Shedeur is still winning. Now, for everyone screaming about team values and being a distraction, let's be honest. The NFL has always been a drama machine. From locker room fights to sideline blowups to on-air feuds, it thrives on conflict. So the outrage over a silent mime routine, it's not about professionalism. It's about control. Because what Shedeur did wasn't a violation, it was a disruption. He didn't disrespect a teammate, bash a coach, or skip practice. He simply refused to play by the media script. And for that, the old guard lost their minds. But let's flip the lens for a second. If Shedeur had walked up to that mic and said the exact same things Dylan Gabriel said about staying focused, being ready, supporting the team, would anyone still be talking about him? Would he be trending? Would we even know he was a third-string quarterback in Cleveland? Of course not. The mime worked because it broke the formula. And now, whether you're a coach, a fan, or a fellow player, you know who Shedeur Sanders is. That's brand power. That's modern strategy. It doesn't mean he's guaranteed a future in the league, but it does mean he's part of the conversation. And in a system where most third-string QBs vanish into obscurity, that's a massive win. Now, does it carry risk? Absolutely. If the Browns go on a losing streak and tensions rise, Shedeur's antics might not look so harmless. If the locker room ever feels like he's making it about himself, that's when problems start. Because no matter how savvy your brand is, you still have to earn your place inside that building. But if he walks the line, if he keeps contributing, keeps working, keeps connecting with teammates, then the mime stunt won't be seen as a threat. It'll be remembered as a flex. A moment when the third-string QB turned the league upside down without saying a word. And that's legendary. So go ahead, drop your take. Is Shedeur rewriting the NFL media playbook, or setting himself up for a brutal fall? Subscribe if you're here for more sports chaos, personality clashes, and all the moments that make this league a never-ending soap opera in shoulder pads.